A part of what I appreciate about my experience and what I bring to my role as a director is I spent so much time outside of media. Like I worked in philanthropy, and when you work in philanthropy, you touch every component of what makes a urban center an urban center. So you really start to see, okay, this is how this works. This is how the political climate fits into what we're trying to do. This is how we come together around issues. So prior to moving to New York, having that experience, coming to New York, you realize like, okay, it works a little differently, but in identifying the issues, I believe I know how, and my team, we know how to find them.
Can you give me a little bit of an analogy? Georgia's your base.
Yes.
But you've been here in New York since what, 2006?
2006, yeah.
How do you compare, or are there a lot of similarities? Because I think sometimes when we look across, America, we find that there are some similarities, a lot of differences in urban neighborhoods, and in particularly some of these issues that you look to touch on. Are the issues almost the same all across the board? Do you find it?
Not at all. Not at all. Like literally, the Georgia. I mean, there's so much about the South that's like a mystery to the rest of the country.
Everybody's moving there.
Yeah. But what you realize that when the red states are very, not red in a scary way, but they just don't view government as the solution of problems. And there's, to some extent, you don't even look to them to even try to solve issues. Because
Wow.
and that is the difference that I think here, we really look to our political leaders to lead and be forward thinking. And when you don't get traction, you get frustrated with them because you know they generally agree with you on these things. So that's when budget constraints and other issues come to the forefront. But in Georgia, education is not something that may be pushed while you're there. So what that means is that the private enterprises, if you believe this is important for economic reasons, for the vitality of our neighborhoods, then you have to lead that effort, which is why the corporate philanthropy community in Atlanta is so rich. I mean, I worked for Georgia Pacific Corporation, but you have Coca-Cola, you have UPS, you have all these major Fortune 500 companies that take care of the city pretty much. And it's not a financial thing, it's by providing leadership, working with the Chamber of Commerce to really ensure that all the issues and the forward progress needed is made to happen, yeah.
With city limits, over 500,000 people checked you out last year. What do you think is going to be the key into doubling that and tapping into that much larger market that you know is out there?
Yeah.
And I know you really want to reach.
Well, for one, the type of issues that we've expanded now to cover, and also we have different tools on our site that we believe engage a larger audience. We have a section called City Conversations where people can write their piece about an issue they want to write about. So tools like that are one small piece, but also expanding our outreach and our visibility. And the social media networks are a powerful benefit to how things can really happen. So if there's a great story that people really like and they really resonate with, then they share it with all of their friends. And you see all of that audience come back to City Limits.
And you say, look at the website right there and some of the things. Walk us through what we're seeing right here. This, you might not be able to identify the exact page, but
no, we're actually. The cool thing is because I led the design of it. So what you see is our homepage, and we have different tabs that are broken down by the 5 boroughs within the city. And then if you go down a little bit, you'll see all the different areas we believe are the important areas that we want our readers to visit. And we provide more than just editorial content. We also provide a resource for nonprofit jobs and just a variety of different tools that we believe people who are passionate about the city would have an interest in.
What are some of the gaps that we probably need to be filling here in the city that we're not really even, we're not even scratching the surface on? I mean, I think one of the, I'm from Harlem, so one of my major concerns is how I see the upbuilding of 125th Street, areas like that. You see co-ops and $400,000 co-ops, but then you got somebody on the same block that can't even afford $400 in rent. Something needs to be discussed.
Well, the great thing about New York City is from what we do, is there's way more stories out there than we can write. So we are a nonprofit, and we pretty much survive on support, earned revenue, and foundation support. So for us, we definitely have our pulse on all the issues. We just don't necessarily have the resources to provide them. And I think the mainstream press takes that same approach, but their profit is, I mean, they're businesses, so they have to stay in business first and foremost. Some of the issues that, and I kind of highlighted this earlier with poverty being a key issue, really, I'll talk about housing. I mean, you're about to see a clash between tenants and landlords. I think that's
Huge.
ahead, yeah.
Right.
I mean, part of it is a fallout from the housing crisis, which didn't necessarily affect New York to the extremity it affected other parts of the country. But I think you'll start to see that clash where people who didn't make the money that they wanted to make, and some of the defaults on some of the housing property purchases, and some of the regulations that we're demanding as tenants are going to try, or will be pushing for. So you'll start to see that become a heated issue in the city. I mean, rent too damn high, guy. Like, that resonated with us because that's a real thing that we all feel. Also, education, because there are a lot of people on the ground who are really trying to create an educated base that can lead this country forward. I mean, at the end of the day, we look at our school system and we know it doesn't work. The great thing is that no one cared about that in the 80s.
Right.
Like, literally, education was never really a political issue, but now it actually has become a political issue.
Right, and I thought we saw one of your highlighted pieces was about Jeffrey Canada, Harlem Children's Zone, Hope or Hype.
Yes. Well, the thing with Jeffrey Canada, and he has done some great work in Harlem, but our approach to that issue was the president wanted to put his political capital and expand that across the country, which is something he campaigned on. But at the time, no one had really done an in-depth analysis of what worked and what did not work. And what we essentially found is that it works really, really well where it works well in New York because New York has the investment money to keep it afloat. But that